The seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat that ain't taken, friend.
So this is Sabacc?
Sabacc.
Welcome back, card players and scoundrels, to another episode of Sabacc the Block. I am here, as always, with my boy, my tech man, the man behind the scenes himself, RB3 is here in the house. But joining us today, we have special guest, Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained. Alex, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Excited to talk about all the Star Wars news that we have currently coming out. Obviously, we got a Bad Batch trailer today, and yesterday we got a full casting of the Obi-Wan show. All really exciting stuff. But before we get to that, I want to get a little bit background on you, Alex, and on your channel, Star Wars Explained. We had Molly on before, so we got a little bit of the creation of the channel. I believe it started with the kind of the hype surrounding The Force Awakens, right?
Yeah, we put out our first video in January 2015. So yeah, it was just kind of a good, perfect storm of timing where I kicked it all off because of trivia, go figure. I wanted to win a trivia contest, and I figured I could study. And I just noticed that everywhere else on YouTube, if you were looking for Star Wars videos at that time, they were all really long. They were good, but they were like 40 minutes long. And I was like, I do not have time to watch 40 minutes about this one character. So I was like, I'm going to make shorter videos, and that'll be my study. And I thought that it might, be successful, especially considering the timing. And so we started in January 2015. Yeah.
Yeah. And how was the growth for that? Was it mainly surrounding the film? Was it mainly on side characters, or what was that based on?
Well, it's weird. So I had a job in video marketing. Like I worked at an online ad agency, digital marketing agency, whatever you want to call it, in Atlanta for years. And so I kind of knew what I was doing, that a lot of online stuff is just about consistency. And so before I uploaded my first video, I basically did 150 videos, and I had them done, uploaded, scheduled. And I was like, I'm going to let this go and see what happens. And I was going to do 3 videos a week. And then after about 2 weeks, it was immediately getting more traction than I thought it would. And I was like, everything that I've done so far is garbage. And I threw it away and I started over, because I was like, I just didn't think people were going to be that interested. In my mind, this was just going to be a little study experiment, and people really latched onto it quick. So I just scrapped all of the bad work that I did, and I started like putting a little more effort into everything. I think if you probably look at my first video compared to maybe even 3 weeks later, I would say it's a pretty stark difference.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious because obviously you do the classic like VO over images kind of style. I'm curious why that specific style versus the talking head style that you started out with, because I feel like by 2015 was kind of the peak of like talking head YouTube culture. I don't know if you would agree with me there, but I feel like there was a lot of YouTube channels kind of coming up with the whole style of like, we're going to be nerds on camera.
I guess I didn't have the equipment. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. Like, I didn't really mind having my face on there, but I am not a big fan of the like just constant cuts in a video where I'm like, I think you should be able to talk about something and get your point out. And so especially early on when I was doing like the on-camera Q&A videos, I was like really OCD about, I'm going to get this whole answer in one take. And then if I messed up, then I would just reshoot it. And I'm not quite so particular about that anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really like the constant editing of some YouTube videos. So that's kind of why I didn't do that.
Was there like an inspiration that you took from maybe a different channel that wasn't like a Star Wars channel?
Oh yeah, for sure. Comics Explained. I think at the time he was Marvel Explained.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, Rob. So he did an AMA on Reddit, which just kind of opened my eyes. This had to have been in 2014, and he was kind of the final like kick in the pants for me to do this thing, where he just talked about like, hey, I just quit my job and I'm on YouTube now and I'm talking about comics. And I read through what he was doing, and then I went to his channel and I was like, I can do this. I can do this about Star Wars. And, that was probably 2013, because I remember I really dragged my feet on this. And when I finally started doing Star Wars videos, I was like, why did I wait so long? So, that had to be 2013 or so. And, yeah, for sure, Comics Explained was a big inspiration for Star Wars Explained.
Yeah, I feel like there's obviously a lot of channels that have that classic, like, I don't want to say video essay because yours isn't really a video essay, but kind of that classic like VO, we're going to explain what this is kind of style. Like Nerd Writer has that. Obviously, he's probably the legendary one who's been doing it forever. The Every Frame of Painting guy. I'm not good with names, but there's like a storytelling guy or like
Patrick Willems
guy. Not Patrick Willems, but he's another great one.
Oh man, you're killing! I love that person, and now I'm blanking on his name. Just
he's along with those guys too, with Patrick Willems and all them. But that kind of style
from the screenplay.
There he is. That's the guy. Yeah, screenplay.
Oh, I love that.
That's
dude.
what I was like.
Love that dude too.
But I feel like that kind of style was really popular inside like this like mid 2010s film online community that I feel like RB3 and I were a part of. RB3 was 10, but he was still a part of it. I think you were, right? You were like in high school, right? RB3?
Yeah, I was
like,
in the Facebook groups. Yeah, I was in
you were like
groups.
You were in high school, and I was just moving to LA during this time. In 2014 is when I moved to LA. And then right away when I moved to LA, my first event, not even kidding, guys, like 15 days after I moved to LA, I went to LA Comic-Con. I met the schmoes there. I just went up to them. I went to their panel, and I went up to Christian and Mark, and I went up to Ken and Josh and JT and all these people. And I was like, hey guys, if you need anyone, let me know. I'm down. I just got a production job over at this company here in Culver City. Let me know if you need any production help, because I'm super down. And that was when they were like popping off. So I was like, I might actually have a shot. And eventually I did. I joined them. And then eventually that's where I met RB3. But I feel like this was the time, Alex, to be like putting out videos because of the sequel trilogy hype, right? Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's funny though, my first year of doing this, like I said, a lot of this was specifically to study for Dragon Con trivia. And at the time in 2014, they were still doing, it was like, it was a mix, like trivia from canon and legends. They were like, anything Star Wars, it's going in here. And so I studied very hard for legends, as well as like trying to keep up with all the new books and stuff. And then in 2015, they were like, we're going to make it only canon now. And I was like, you sons of bitches.
Yeah, it saved me. It's the one thing that saved, bro. If this was Legends, if I was in the Star Wars trivia tournament with like stuff in the comics from before, and I would not be competing. So I think that low-key saved me. I love it, but I know that's not the most popular opinion. I think a lot of people who were following the books and the novels before the sequels were probably, I remember that they were pretty disappointed when they called it Legends, right?
I remember reading that. Like, I can remember being at my job and being in my cubicle and being like, oh no, really? Like, yeah, that was my childhood. It got me into Star Wars outside of the movies. That was mostly what I read for a long time. But I don't know. I feel like I went through the 5 stages of grief pretty quickly, where I'm like, yeah, but they're right. Like, how are they going to do Heir to the Empire now?
Yeah.
Like, if this is the cost of new movies, like, so be it. The stories are still there. I was able to get over it pretty quick, I feel.
Yeah, and speaking of which, when it came to the hype surrounding the films and then the films themselves. When did you start kind of connecting the dots into being like, you know what, I'm not just going to do this, but I'm going to review the films, I'm going to review the shows, that kind of stuff?
I kind of remember my dad just suggesting that one day. We would go to lunch every Wednesday, so that'd be my lunch break at work, and so I told him like what I was doing in my off time, and he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "You should probably keep up with like all the new comics and the books and stuff. Like if you're trying to keep on top of all this trivia stuff and set yourself up as an expert, you need to be, reading and watching everything." So it's his fault I have no life now.
Yeah, there you go. That's currently my dad right now with Attack on Titan. He's like, you can become Mr. Attack on Titan. I'm wearing the Attack on Titan shirt right now. So, because that's like my goal eventually is to like, I just want to be a part of the production. Because I mean, I'm in Hollywood. I work in production. This is what I've been doing for the past 6 years. So I'm like, yo, I don't think they should be a Hollywood movie on this incredible Japanese anime. But if they are going to make it, I kind of have to. I kind of have to be the one making it. So
someone has to make sure they do it right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to be the guy in the room who's like, actually, I'll be the Attack on Titan explained.
Yeah. I joke about that, but I do really love that I have kind of set that up as a goal of. I love what it's done for me as a fan, keeping up with all the books and comics. It's also led to like I just remember. I don't know, a few months into doing that, I did a review for Dark Disciple, and I just thought to tag Christy Golden in it because I really liked the book. And then she was kind enough to pass it on to Del Rey, and she was just like, this guy gets it. It was like a 2-minute review, and she was just like, this guy just nailed the book. And they emailed me, and they were like, would you like to be on our list? And I just thought it was like some weird mailing list, like, here's what's coming up in Star Wars books. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then they're like, okay, we need your address so we can send you the books. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like that kind of thing happening was so crazy and surreal.
It is, because it makes you, I don't know, it makes you feel like appreciated as a fan, which is kind of funny. But it's definitely one of those moments where I had the exact same moment. I have like 20 different moments in my heart and in my soul when I joined Jedi Council for like a span of 2 weeks. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but for that short period of time when they actually did the same to me and put me on the book list and all that, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. I get to have exclusive access to the books. And then going to my Rise of Skywalker screening, which was the first ever screening I've went to. I told the story last week, but I was living in LA for years, and everyone I knew has gone to screenings except for me. And I was like, yo, I need to go to one screening. And the fact that it was the last movie in the Skywalker saga, and it's my favorite story, and I was already a fan of The Last Jedi and of The Force Awakens. So I was like, this is already, I've peaked. Like, if they tell me tomorrow I don't have a job, I'm cool. And they did. They were like, you don't have a job. And I was like, all right, at least I got to go see the Rise of Skywalker. And
got what I wanted.
So I got what I wanted, and I'm out. But yeah, it's a really cool moment to have that. Yeah, thank you, RB3. I appreciate that. Yeah,
that's something that I've never had the pleasure of doing. But if I could choose one, it's Rogue Squadron. It's Rogue Squadron. If anyone's listening.
There you go. See, that's my thing too. Like, I want to manifest that kind of, invite me to screenings, guys.
I'll do one, and you'll never hear from me again. That will thrill me. Rogue Squadron. That's the one.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like anything that has like Mexican people in it. Like, that's me. Like, put me in there. And RB3 went to you went to the Black Panther one, right? RB3.
I did. I did.
You actually went to like the carpet, right?
Yeah, red carpet and everything.
The purple carpet.
That's
it was
dope.
a purple carpet.
The purple carpet. Yeah.
You were hanging out with like Childish Gambino and like Michael B. Jordan. And
Yeah. My boy Michael B. Jordan was there. Childish Gambino waved at me when I said,
you were just dapping him up, bro.
Yeah, I was like, yo, Michael BJ, what's good, bro?
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Christian really loved this joke. But we're looking around, you see Spike Lee over here, you see John Singleton, you see all these celebrities. And I look at Christian, I was like, dang, the only brother they didn't invite, it was OJ. And that's how it went. So it was a good time. That's
a good time, man. I that's definitely one thing I would love to do. I've never gone to like an actual like red carpet premiere. That's something I've never done. But I think that would be kind of fun. But either way, Alex, that's super, super cool to learn a little bit about your channel. Obviously, everyone who's watching is probably already subscribed to it, but if you're not, go to subscribe to Star Wars Explained. Let's get into the Star Wars news, RB3.
Let's do it.
I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true.
So this story we know is true because it's officially from StarWars.com. We got a full cast of the Obi-Wan show that is coming up. We don't have an official date on when the show is set to be released. I don't know if you want to start there, Alex, as far as like what you think, when you think the show is going to come out. But we do know that they're starting production officially in April, which is a couple days away. What do you think it's coming out, man? Do you think it's going to be next spring? Maybe like the Bad Batch time? Maybe next summer?
Yeah, I'm trying to... So I assume Book of Boba Fett is going to be...
Yes.
No, we know that. That's Christmas.
Yes.
So that'll go a few weeks. Like, I wonder if they're going to get into this pattern of, Star Wars show, Marvel show, Star Wars show, Marvel show, or, at some point I figure they just, they're going to have to start overlapping.
They're going to have to.
So it might just be like a constant stream of like, okay, this Star Wars show just ended. That maybe they're going to try to space out premieres and finales a little bit. But I'm hopeful that it'll be, about this time next year, because did they wrap production on Book of Boba Fett?
I don't know if they've said. Have they said that?
I'm trying to remember if they said that, because if they were to wrap today, then they have 8 months of post. So give them 4 months of production and then 8 months of post. Maybe March, April next year for Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I think it'll be maybe around May the 4th. Maybe around there is when they'll post that out. But either way, let me read off this cast list real quick, guys, and then you guys can give me your thoughts. Obviously, I want to hear your thoughts too, RB3, because I know you're a fan as well. Obviously, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen are coming back in their respective roles. And then newcomers, we have Moses Ingram, and she is from that Netflix show, Queen's Gambit. We have Kumail Nanjiani, we have Indira Varma, Rupert Friend, O'Shea Jackson, Sung Kang, Simone Kessel, and then Penny Safdie, which I think is funny. And then returning from Revenge of the Sith, we have Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Piez as Beru, which I have a lot of thoughts on that. Just because I've always, I don't know if you've been watching all about the Nexium documentary on HBO. Have you guys seen that? RB3, have you seen that?
I have not seen that one, no.
So it's about that weird cult that was really popping off in 2010, and that had Allison Mack in it. I don't know if you guys know Allison Mack.
And some of the Battlestar people were on it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That one Battlestar girl was on it. But that cult was popping off, and they made a documentary about the weird, crazy, psychotic stuff that went on in there. But Bonnie was heavy in that, heavy. And they talked a lot about her playing Aunt Beru, even though she was only in the movie for maybe 30 seconds. But she was actually one of the leads of this documentary, kind of playing the role of I'm here, I was the first defector kind of leaving the cult, and what does that mean, and what are the implications of that? So I was kind of shrug emoji as far as are they going to bring her back? Beats me. I don't know if they want to have that Nexium cult controversy on their hands, but since she technically left, I thought that was kind of interesting that they were just come back and play Aunt Beru again. But that was a big deal. She's in it for 10, she's in 10 episodes of it, and she's heavy in it. So it's not like she has a little bit part. She's actually she talks a lot throughout the documentary. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, no, it's really good, but it's also really long. And it's also, it's also kind of frustrating, I guess is the best way to say it, when you see a lot of people being that was crazy when I did all this crazy stuff and I told people to do stuff that they shouldn't have done. And I was you're a part of that. But yeah, she's coming back. Joel Edgerton's coming back, which I think is funny as well. Who's the biggest name to you that stands out as either a surprise or an excitement level?
Oh, I think Kumail Nanjiani was the biggest surprise for me. I'm looking at the list right now again. That's someone that surprised me, and I think it's just I'm still getting used to Star Wars is more and more mainstream, and I'm really used to my Star Wars being full of unknowns, and Star Wars more like elevating people who I've never really heard of before. And so when Woody Harrelson was cast in Solo, I was like, okay. And I thought he did a great job. It just kind of took me getting used to, and it's just, I have to continue to get used to that. So I'm excited for Kumail because I know he's a big old nerd, and I'm sure he's thrilled. But that was the name on the list that I really went like, oh, wow, Kumail.
Yeah, I feel like he's having a weird, not a weird, but like a come up for sure when it comes to like him being apparently a big role in the Eternals too, which apparently is going to be a massive film from Chloe Zhao, who's on her way to win an Oscar right now. So we know that he has a big part there because he's talked a lot about it. Who stands out to you, RB3? I'm curious. I don't know if you have any name that stands out to you.
Well, I always got to shout out my boy O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Really
I always talk about how I relate to his character a lot in Ingrid Goes West. Classic film. He wears the Laker jersey. He's a Batman fan, and it's just everything about his character in that movie is just hilariously like me. So anytime I see O'Shea Jackson Jr. in the movie, I'm like, oh, I'm in the movie. Dope. So yeah, nice. I'm glad to see him in Obi-Wan. I'm just curious to see what kind of part. Is it going to be a voice role? Is it going to be live action? Like where's that going to go?
Yeah, I feel like that's a question for a lot of these actors, right? Alex, is the idea of like, are they playing actual physical like humans in there, or are they playing maybe voiceover parts, like a droid or something like that? What do you think as far as like who could be the perfect VO droid out of this cast?
Like, I'm kind of wondering if Nanjiani is doing a droid. Yeah. I feel like it would fit. And also just the fact that like, he is in the Eternals. And maybe they're like, hey, we spent all this money on making him buff. Let's make him buff in 2 universes. Like he could be live action there, or I do think that he would have good sensibilities for a really fun droid character.
I think that could work for sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just like, but yeah, my gut reaction to everyone is like to assume that they're all human, and I kind of have to remind myself, it's like, oh yeah, some of these are going to be probably droids, some are going to be motion capture. Or like, alien makeup characters.
Yeah, I feel like, Kumail is definitely like addicted to the gym now. We all know that he's super buff now, Batista level buff. After that movie he did with Batista, he was just addicted to it. So we know he could be in there. I also want to think of like logistics. I know they're shooting this in the UK, right? From what I've heard, they're shooting this in the UK. They're also shooting Andor in the UK, the Cassian Andor show. I think that plays a hand maybe as far as like, are they going to be available as far as like traveling to the UK during this time? To me, it's all about Moses Ingram. Obviously because of her post that she posted when she said that she plays with lightsabers. What'd you think of that whole thing?
Yeah, Molly and I, we're going to do our weekly Q&A. We're going to film that tomorrow.
You don't have to spoil it.
Topic. No, it's fine. I'll say the exact same thing. You get a preview where, I kind of can't decide if that's her just saying, like, I'm in Star Wars. Like, I feel like every Star Wars fan tends to take anything anyone in Star Wars or even not in Star Wars says, and it's like, what do they mean by that? And it could just be that she's like, I'm in Star Wars. Like she could have just said, pew, 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 I'm in Star Wars. Or like, I fly X-Wings, just something generic. Or, it could be that she gets to play with lightsabers. So I've seen some theories thrown around that she could be an Inquisitor, which I'd really love to see an Inquisitor in this series. I've seen young Ahsoka as a theory. I've seen a handful of interesting ideas.
Yeah, I'm actually so on board with the young Ahsoka theory, and I know a lot of people are not. But I am like, as soon as I heard that theory, I was like, yes. Because we all, as Star Wars fans, as Obi-Wan fans, we assume, Alex, I don't know if you assume this as well, that we have to get at least maybe one flashback, right? As far as Clone Wars time. That's our like kind of imaginary assumption as far as like what we think they can do, which is why Hayden Christensen is returning.
Yeah. If Hayden's going to be here, why, if not,
it can't just be like, you know, psychic projections of Darth Vader, which could be. That's also a theory out there, but I feel like it has to be like a Clone Wars flashback, which means it'll only make sense that we have Ahsoka and Anakin in the same scene, which is Hayden Christensen and maybe Moses Ingram in there, and we get to see armored General Skywalker and armored General Kenobi, which I think would be just worth the price of admission just altogether.
Yeah,
if we just get one.
This isn't going to be an introduction to Ahsoka anymore, since they already did that in The Mandalorian.
Exactly.
Like the more casual fan, like my parents, they're going to be like, oh yeah, it's the girl from The Mandalorian, but she's younger now. Oh, she knew Obi-Wan. Interesting. Like they've already done that introduction. So it's not going to be like a bunch of exposition. They can more easily basically slip in that, like, yes, this is Anakin's Padawan that you didn't know he had if you didn't watch the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's definitely the case for me. I feel like it would make sense. But what do you think of Indira Varma? I'm sure you probably made a video on that one, because that was one that was kind of a while back that was rumored. There was like rumors going from Satine to like Asajj. I don't know if you have that kind of strong take, but what do you think of that casting?
Not to spoil anyone, I already brought up the book Dark Disciple, but Asajj dies in that book. So
no, I'm saying like maybe like a flashback.
Yeah, I was gonna say unless it's a flashback, which I can kind of see. I mean, that would be interesting, but I also don't want this whole show to be flashbacks.
Yes. Yeah.
Something I really, really dig if instead of just flashbacks. So I also don't want the show to be about how Obi-Wan learns to become a Force ghost, but I think that would be a really fun part of it, because we see when Yoda does it, part of it is like basically going into the dark side cave and confronting your darkest self, confronting the things you are afraid of, your failures. So I would really kind of dig it if Obi-Wan does have that kind of moment where he probably doesn't go to that crazy planet from the Clone Wars, but he does confront his past demons, and that could be our flashback instead of just like, oh, it's a dream he's having or he's just having memories. But like to go back through the Clone Wars that way, and if she showed up as Asajj like that, I'm like, yeah, that could be really cool.
Right. I think there's so many ways you can make this, in a writing standpoint, make it make sense. Like you said, it could be like part of his training as far as going into becoming a Force ghost. It could be some sort of trial that he has to go through in the Force. It could be some sort of, I don't know, maybe psychic projection or psychic attack or whatever you want to speculate and say. I think there's a way that you can make us as Star Wars fans believe it. And seeing a flashback to me is like, I agree. I don't want it to be like the whole show, but I definitely want it to be at least part of it, because I think it would be so exciting to see the Clone Wars era of Anakin and Obi-Wan in the way we saw it in the animated format, in live action format. I don't think we've ever seen that before. But I know there's a lot of people who are taking this to the extreme. They're like, yo, Quinlan Vos is going to show up and it's going to be a badass and it's going to be like 20 Jedis and generals and we're going to see an entire battle sequence, which we might, but I don't know if it's going to go there. I don't know what you think of like maybe like a ton of Jedi generals or something inside the Clone Wars.
I guess there's the potential for it.
Yeah.
It's just, we still don't really know exactly what the show is about. We know that, yeah, it's going to have the rematch of the century, which, okay, awesome. But that's just going to be probably the climax. So how does it start? I don't know. It all just depends on the context. That's so many things about Star Wars I'm like really iffy about until I hear the full story. When they announced a Bad Batch show, I was like, those guys, really? But the more I thought about it and the more I've seen from it, I'm like, okay, I kind of get what you're going for and I'm into it. So it's just too hard for me to say with so little information.
Sure. I also want to give a shout out. Sabrina in the chat is saying Benny Safdie. Yeah, shout out. The Safdie brothers are officially Star Wars canon. RB3 and I are big fans of the Safdies. Yeah, he's actually a really good actor. I think it's kind of funny that they got him as an actor and not as a director. But he's actually what's that movie called? Good Time RB3.
Oh yeah, well, he's
great in Good Time.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson, he's looking crazy.
Yeah, he's a great actor. So he's great in Good Time, and then also obviously his movies are obviously insane and crazy and really well done. I think that's an interesting casting choice. I think Sung Kang from the Fast and the Furious movies is another one that's kind of like an interesting casting choice there, and I'm curious to see what he's going to play. But either way, I am on board with everyone here, and I am so curious what they're going to play.
Let me run this. I had this kind of own question in my mind. Do you think this is an order from top to bottom, left to right, of like this is the most prominent character down to like more the most minor?
That's what it feels like, right? It feels like they're doing it in a certain way, what makes you feel like how many episodes they're in and how many times they're going to be featured in the show and how heavily they're going to be featured. If I were to guess, no. The only reason why no is because of Joel Edgerton and Bonnie P.S.
That's what was throwing me off too.
I doubt they're going to be in all the episodes, right? There's no way. I think they're going to be in maybe one or two, right? I don't think it would make sense to see Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru that much.
Part of me definitely feels like they went by like the name relevancy, like who was going to be.
That's
like
part of it too, because Benny Safdie is definitely the most unknown compared to like a Joel Edgerton, for example.
I guess it's like out of my order in that way. So I'm like, because I don't really know Rupert Friend, so I would have put like O'Shea and Sung up higher. But I don't know.
No, I think you know what I think. I think Indira Varma actually has she might have a bigger role than most of them because she was talked about more often in the trades and in the news and in different articles. That I feel like maybe she, out of everyone there, actually has like a recurring role in every episode.
They probably did it completely randomly, knowing we would do this. Being like, but what does it mean? Because that's what we do.
Yeah. I definitely think that's the case as far as the casting way of them putting this out. But I think Indira has a bigger role than most of them there because of the way she was talked about beforehand, that she has a bigger role in there. But everyone else, I could see them being in one episode. Like I could see O'Shea Jackson maybe playing like an Imperial trooper for like an episode and that's it. Or like some sort of like bounty hunter or something.
I feel, Rupert Friend to me, I'm like, that's an Imperial officer.
Yes, it is.
100%.
Yes, that's definitely the case. I love how we're fan casting this. I see Kumail Nanjiani as like, I could see him as like a bar owner. Like he's like some sort of cantina guy, like behind the counter giving information to Obi-Wan. And maybe Indira Varma is someone he meets on some sort of journey he has to go on. I don't know. I'm just super speculating at this point.
Yeah.
It's all fun speculation, guys. Nothing crazy. Let's move on to the Bad Batch trailer that came out a little bit earlier today. What'd you think of that, man? Obviously, I think our reaction was pretty similar as far as when we first heard about the Bad Batch, especially when it comes to animation, because I feel like the animation in Star Wars, we've gotten Clone Wars and Rebels, and a lot of people consider Clone Wars and Rebels to be the best Star Wars. And going from that to Bad Batch is kind of like a jump as far as like the quality in storytelling, I feel like, and characters mainly.
Well, we had Resistance as well.
Oh, Resistance. Yeah, that's very true. But what I'm saying is like, I think the type of storytelling we get inside animated shows are usually pretty broad and huge and gigantic and spectacular versus like, you know, it's a group of clone troopers who are, you know, fighting the way to freedom. And it's like, cool. All right. Definitely not what I thought, but all right, cool. What do you think of the new trailer that came out today?
I liked it. I've gotten far more on board with the idea of this series because it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, when you say we're making a Bad Batch series, I'm like, but why? And then when you think about why, I'm like, oh, okay, there probably is actually a pretty interesting story to tell here about what do the clones do when their purpose has been served and they're just cast aside. Where do they find new purpose? And you have these special clones who I think were a little bit over the top and caricaturish in season 7, but you spend more time with them, and especially with this new child character that they introduced, who I am speculating is a female clone of Jango Fett. So another just different clone, and these people finding out like how their differences are actually strengths and finding new purpose. I think that this could add a lot of extra context to in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, the same way that the Clone Wars added context to in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
It's so fun to have you here, man, because now I have so many questions about this. So after you probably know this and I don't, after Order 66, are we assuming that the Bad Batch are not microchipped? Is that the assumption that we're taking?
That's my assumption. It's still completely up for debate. Like, we could 100%, and part of me is afraid that they'll do this in just like a, oh, my heart kind of way. They could still 100% like open the show with the Bad Batch doing Order 66. And like, God help any Jedi that's stuck with the Bad Batch in that moment. But Tarkin's little speech about how, you know, they are more independent, more creative, they are a little disobedient to get the job done. That to me says there's no chip in there, because they should be 100% obedient. That's what the Empire wants. They don't want anyone thinking differently from the way they want them to think.
Yeah, it's the idea of like, to get more super strength, you had to let go of the control of his programming and DNA and all that kind of stuff as far as what it was, right? That's kind of the pitch for the Bad Batch. Is to get their super skills, they had to lose their like other qualities as far as being super obedient and being chipped and all that.
It's still unclear if they were created on purpose or if it just happened. And I think in the past I've said that I thought it was on purpose, but I'm kind of wondering if it were on accident at this point. Because and most of that is coming from Omega, the young character that they introduced in this trailer. I just really like that idea that, you know, some clones just come out different, and the journey, like, that's why she idolizes them. And she's like, oh my God, you're Clone Force 99. Like, you're different, just like me. And that's okay, when literally everyone else is the same. Yeah. I'm excited for that kid's story.
Yeah, I think that'll be kind of fun too. And I obviously, the introduction we got from the Bad Batch were in those, was it 3 episodes we got in Clone Wars or 4?
I think it's 4.
4 episodes. So we got those 4 episodes that kind of introduced who the characters were and what made them special. And what I think about it that was interesting as I was watching the trailer was you could actually convince me that these, 5-6 soldiers have a chance of kind of blending in to the rest of the world and not sticking out so much, because I was going to say like they all look like clones, but they kind of don't. That was their big differentiating factor, was the fact that when Rex introduced them and they came out, they didn't really look like Rex. They looked so different as far as their facial structure and stuff like that. And I was like, maybe that's part of what came with the perks of like, one of them is a sharpshooter, super strength, all that stuff. Maybe part of it too is the way their face took shape and all that kind of stuff that goes into cloning that obviously we don't know about. And that was my pitch, was like my idea of like, maybe that's why they're able to maybe hide from the Empire a little bit easier in this show, but maybe we're going to see that in this season. But that was my speculation.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because their face is so different, they're not going to be like, that looks like a clone trooper. So it makes it a little bit more exciting to see them in action. I think it'll be a lot of fun, man. I think it'll be fun. I actually got I got a big kick out of it. I'm still crossing my fingers for the Martez Sisters series. Yo, bring me the Martez Sisters. Give them a show.
I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for them to show up again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think that there's a lot of potential for the Bad Batch to run into a ton of different characters, because they're supposed to be mercenaries.
Yeah.
I 100% think they're going to run into Dryden Voss, because I just remember in season 7, you see him as a hologram. And I was like, oh my God, they modeled Dryden Voss for animation for one little shot. Like, good on you, Lucasfilm Animation. Now they announced Bad Batch, and I'm like, oh, they knew. Like,
Definitely do. Yeah, I'm curious because I feel like now is the moment where they're taking from the MCU crossover thing, where there's speculation about who's appearing in Obi-Wan from the Cassian Andor show to Obi-Wan and the Cassian Andor show, as far as cast members going back and forth between the two sets, because it should be the same timeline, right? As far as Cassian and Obi-Wan, or at least around that same timeline. Am I wrong in that, or is that?
I don't know. I don't remember if they've set a timeline.
Yeah,
for
you're
the
right.
Andor show.
That's just
In
me
fact, I think
making things up.
I believe they've moved the timeline around.
Okay.
Because like I feel like I read at some point that it was supposed to be, okay, it's Andor and he's already got K2SO, and now they're saying K2SO is not going to be in the first season, or maybe he'll come in at the end or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think they've been kind of moving the timeline around with Andor. They may have pushed it back a little farther.
Yeah, I'm so curious how they're going to do that, because a lot of the shows that they announced to me felt like, oh, these could all be at the same time. From Bad Batch to Andor to Lando to the Obi-Wan show, all of them to me feel like you could pitch me like a major crossover event, and I would be down for it, because I could believe you that they all kind of take place in the same time.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely doing that with The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And what, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic.
Exactly, yeah.
And Boba Fett. So why not do it a little bit farther back? I hope that they kind of keep it mixed, where some of these things are going to do big crossover events, and some things like the Acolyte, like that can just be its own thing. It can be its own weird thing. Like I want them to keep kind of spreading out and expanding the galaxy instead of keeping everything right in the same time period. But
yeah,
that's kind of a long-term goal.
Yeah, the only thing for me that I can't lie, man, I don't know if you're watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. You're watching that, right?
Yeah.
I want Enfys Nest back, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
Give me
Hell
Enfys Nest. RB3, were you going to say something?
Oh no, Falcon and Winter Soldier is lit.
Yeah, but give me Erin Killiman. I would love to see her come back, and she still looks like she's super young, so it's not like she's like, oh, she aged out and she can't fit. Like the Stranger Things kids.
That was one
like
of my
they're
favorite
40
parts. Yeah, that second episode when Bucky gets onto that truck and he's like, I found the hostage, and Aaron Kellyman comes out. I was like, oh, you're about to get your ass kicked.
Yeah. It really was the conveying scene in Solo, because they're fighting on top of the container. They're trying to steal what's in the container. I was like, wait a minute, they're copying Solo. Like I even tweeted it out.
She's basically still in Fist Nest.
Yeah, she's Enfys Nest. It literally is. Someone saw Solo, and they were like, "Oh, let's make this a show in the MCU, where it's a bunch of like freedom fighters called the Flag Smashers fighting against like the American Empire."
Only difference is Woody Harrelson didn't pull out a gat and shoot somebody. And that one, like Captain America,
he did though. He low key did.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he blew up one of those swoop bikes.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he totally did. But I love seeing it, because to me, it's always a lot of fun to see Erin Kellyman go from like sweet little girl to like when she puts on a mask, it's like evil, crazy, doing backflips and martial arts stuff. And I'm like, yo, it's something about the mask that just makes her powerful, as Enfys Nest or as the Flag Smasher as she is now. But I would love to see her back. Is kind of my whole point of saying this. Is like the only reason I would want the galaxy to get a tiny bit smaller is just for Enfys Nest. If we see her come back in some sort of way, maybe in the Lando show, maybe in a Cassian Andor show. I think that would be
I'm cool with them continuing existing stories as long as there's still. And right now, the High Republic is making me very happy. Like, they are expanding the galaxy. I'm good. I just want to make sure that they keep doing that instead of just like, Star Wars exists in this 160-year time period.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can literally do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why super curious to see what's going to happen with the movies too, right? The Taika Waititi movie and the supposed Rian Johnson films that are supposedly taking place though. I'm curious where they're going, because to me, that's the biggest example of like, now what, right? We can't just keep going back to the same time period. We have to make movies that are in a different era. And I'm curious what they're going to do for that. All right, RB3, let's go to the Green Psylop, man.
If you'd only had this little green Psylop.
So our Green Psylop is all about the prequels. Looking back at it, I think it's so funny that I've been hearing about. I don't know about you, Alex, but you've been a Star Wars fan forever. You probably know this. How long have we been hearing about the potential of an Obi-Wan show, right? I feel like I've been hearing about this since like 2005. Since like the movie came out, we thought like, hey, there could be another story involving Ewan McGregor a couple years from now that is centered around his time on Tatooine, whatever that means. But we know that 20-year time gap between these two movies, A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith. There's so much potential there with an actor like Ewan McGregor, who is known for being a quality actor in his own films, to an actor who can also do genre films like Star Wars. So to me, this is like a long time coming, because I don't know about you, Alex, but my favorite character in the prequels, and I thought the best part of the prequels, were by far Ewan and his version of Obi-Wan, playing a different version to what we see in the Alec Guinness version, but still having that Obi-Wan qualities to the core. So I kind of want to take a look back as far as like your thoughts on the prequels in retrospect, and kind of your take when you were watching them in theaters.
I've said before that I think I became a Star Wars fan at the perfect time. I was getting into it like right at 95, and like a year later, Shadows of the Empire came out. And a year after that, I got to see the special editions in theater. And then 2 years after that, the prequels came out, and I was 12. So there was never any of that like divide or disconnect where if I were a little bit older, I would have been like, well, this doesn't feel like that Star Wars. No, it was just all Star Wars to me. So I always loved the prequels. I would say that as I got older and I rewatched them, I'm like, okay, I can definitely see some faults in them. And I would say that like Attack of the Clones is the one that, if you were to ask me what Star Wars movie do you want to watch tonight, it would be surprising if I said Attack of the Clones. But I definitely I think I was lucky in that I was the right age.
Sorry about that.
I was the right age when they were coming out, and I was definitely able to just take, the parts of him that I loved and hold on to them. So I've never had any ill will towards them.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was on the Collider ranked Star Wars videos. I don't know if you remember those, RB3 and Alex, but I was on those videos. And when they announced the list, they basically, shout out to Christian Ruvukaba, his idea was to give us the list live on camera so we could get an actual reaction to it, and not just send it to us beforehand. So he told me live on camera, he's like, last on the list, Attack of the Clones. And I was like, yep. Not shocking to me. That is ranked as the worst Star Wars movie. And it's funny to me because I love Attack of the Clones, like with all my heart, I really do. But even I acknowledge that maybe I don't consider it to be the worst, but I definitely think it's the worst in writing and dialogue. I definitely think it's super rough when it comes to the dialogue in that film, especially the Anakin and Padme stuff. It's definitely a little tough for me to be like, all right, this is not how you would talk.
The thing about Attack of the Clones and all of the prequels really are that, yes, it's kind of silly, but I'm watching them and I'm enjoying them, and I'm just like, dude, why would you say that, Anakin? Yeah. Like, it just becomes something that you laugh at and you're like, Star Wars.
Yeah, what does he say in that scene? I used to have that scene memorized, man. I don't think I know it now, but it's like, you're in my soul, tormenting me day and night, or something like that.
My heart is beating, hoping the kiss you gave me will not become a scar.
Yeah, but when he says like something like, you're tormenting me, I'm just like, yo, bro, chill. Like, I don't know about tormenting, man. That sounds a little rough, man. That scene is ridiculous. It's insane. I love that scene because I think it's very like, it's operatic, it's Shakespearean, it's theatrical, right? It feels to me like a stage play inside like a Star Wars movie, a stage play that George Lucas wanted in a movie. It didn't quite hit what he wanted it to hit, but I still appreciate what he was going for, if you know what I mean.
He's going for that classic. I always respect George like swings for the fences.
Yeah.
And he knows what he wants to do. And I love reading about how people told him like, no, in the Phantom Menace, Anakin should be like a teenager at least. Like you're going to get a lot more people excited if he's a teenager. And George just like, that's not the story. That's not the story. This is the story. And this is what I'm doing. And you're like, okay, George, like I respect that.
Me too, man. And I really do love the prequels, each and every one of them. I've said it a million times on different Star Wars shows and on my own Star Wars show is that I grew up with the prequels, so obviously I have a super special connection to them. But even just seeing stuff like that and seeing those scenes that are a little bit over the top and a little bit insane, and instead of me being like, this is ridiculous, I'm just like, yo, this is wild. I appreciate the boldness of saying you're tormenting my soul inside. That's bold. So at least I appreciate that for sure. I also think it's funny how you mentioned that Anakin being a 9-year-old was part of what George wanted. Have you guys been on Star Wars TikTok? RB3, Alex?
I have not been on Star Wars TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok.
No.
Star Wars TikTok is the coolest. It's so weird and insane, but it really is like, it's like this, it's the TikTok generation of Star Wars, which is kind of scary if you think about it. Because I think this generation is scary. It's terrifying. Anytime I go on TikTok, I'm so afraid as I scroll through. But when I'm on Star Wars TikTok, which is mainly what my For You page is, there is this meme going around of there's a lot of cosplay, which is obviously a lot of fun. And if you're a fan of conventions and cosplay, it's awesome. But there was this cosplay of this girl as Padme. And there's like, if you like the excitement dance is what they called it, I guess. But it was like Padme flirting with guys her own age, and she's doing like the little dance that's TikTok dance, and she's all like bummed out about it, and it's like Padme flirting with 9-year-olds, and she's like shaking her butt and stuff. And I love how this generation like caught on to the weirdness of like, wait a minute, this is really weird. Like Anakin and Padme should not be a thing, but go for it. 9-year-old.
They were perfectly friendly in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, no, I don't think that at all. I think Anakin was spitting game, bro.
Well, Anakin, yeah, but
Anakin
I mean, he was a
like,
kid.
yo,
I don't think Padme was egging him on or anything.
No. I just think it's funny how like TikTok and those,
are you an angel? Come on, Anakin.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Anakin was spitting game at 9 years old, bro. That's goals. That's hashtag goals right there. For all the shy homies out there like me. Anakin is he's a G. He's a G. He was doing it. But yeah, I love the prequels, man. And I really do feel like Attack of the Clones, surprisingly enough, and Revenge of the Sith, I think those two movies together, even Phantom Menace, I would say, kind of pitched us this idea of what an Obi-Wan is, right? As far as like, here's a guy who has this burden placed on him by his master, who he lost his master. He beat the crazy Sith warrior that everyone thought was like unbeatable, right? The way they talked about Darth Maul was very much like, trained in the dark arts. He's very powerful. He beats him. In Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan is like a investigative, cop who's going off into different planets and trying to find this bounty hunter, and literally goes hand-to-hand combat with him, which I thought was so funny. And then to Revenge of the Sith, when he literally does the same thing, where the council literally gets together and they're like, y'all, we need an assassin to hunt down General Grievous to end the war. Who's going to be the assassin? And they're like, yo, our boy Obi-Wan, he's the guy. Put a lightsaber in his hand and he can hunt down and kill anyone. And it was all kind of like this setup to find out who Obi-Wan was as a warrior in this time period, which eventually leads us to this show. But as a whole, what do you think of the McGregor Obi-Wan and his arc in the prequels?
I agree with what you said earlier. I think that he is one of the best parts about the prequels. I think he's just having a blast the whole time. Every time that clip pops up where it's from episode 1, it's a behind the scenes clip and he does a little stunt and he's like, they asked me if I wanted to be in Star Wars. And I was like, F yeah. It's like, that just looks like him the whole time. I think he's having a blast. And I love how much he loves the universe and the character. Man, and what you said about how it feels like we've been talking about this forever. I think that the second Disney bought Lucasfilm, people were like, Obi-Wan movie. do it now. Even me, who's someone that I'm like, let's make sure we do other things. I was like, no, do it before it's too late. So the fact that it's finally actually happening is so fun. And I love what you said about, we get to see what kind of warrior he is. And now I think we're going to get to see a little bit more about what is he like in peacetime? What's he like when he doesn't have a war to fight? He just has this mission, but he isn't quite the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan. He's probably still a little bit restless. I think that's a really great little jumping off point.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect transition to what we get to the Alec Guinness one. But I really do feel like rewatching the prequels, you appreciate a little bit more. Like, if you really, really think about it, Obi-Wan is like the galaxy's best badass. Like, he's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the galaxy.
He's done it all.
Yeah, where he's like, yo, we need someone to take down this mission, go behind enemy lines. And it's like Obi-Wan goes by himself to Utapau and takes down General Grievous. I think it's so cool. And that's what makes it such an interesting character, is because the way he speaks and the way he talks and the way he tosses the blaster aside makes him like that contradiction of like what we get from a traditional like 80s badass, for example, like a Sylvester Stallone or an Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's technically doing the same thing they're doing in their films, but he's doing it in just a different way, and he has a different look and vibe, and the way he speaks is different. So I love Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's always going to be my favorite character, and I'm excited to see what he does in the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah, I think he's probably my favorite prequel era character.
Yeah. Already, RB3, let's finish up with our POC spotlight. Our POC spot. Oh, go ahead.
I do want to say before we get to that, and I say this every time, but we have to do these things at the beginning of the show. People, if you're watching this live, hit the like button. Really helps the show. Really helps the support. It really helps boost our presence in other people's suggestion boxes and all that stuff. So really hit that like button if you enjoy this genuine Star Wars content. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe to First Cut. We got Sabacc the Block every week, and we also got the Meaning of Podcast. We got A Talk on Titan, which just wrapped up with the season finale. We got a whole lot of stuff going on. And if you want to support the show, $5 plus donations will be greatly appreciated and will be read out loud by the robot. And $5 plus donations will be read out loud. Firstcut.live. We do have one that came in so far. Do we want to read that right now? Okay, for sure. 1 second.
Snizer donated $5. I've been thinking a lot about this quote from the mentor in Inferno Squad. There's always hope, Aiden. Hope that if you speak truth long enough, the right person will hear it and know it to be truth. Do you all have a favorite Star Wars book quote?
Yeah.
Ooh, let me hear it.
So this is from Victory's Price. This is one that I just keep on thinking about, and it needs a little bit of setup, I think. But there's a character who, like, even by Star Wars standards, is very alien. She is mysterious. We don't know much about where she came from, her culture, her practices, or anything. Basically, she gets wounded and she's bleeding all over the place, and Hera wants to help her. But this being Kairos is like, do not touch me. I can't be touched. And she kind of tries to explain why. And Hera's like, okay, I'll do my best to help you without touching. And she's like, thank you, you understand. And Hera says, I don't really, but I don't have to understand to respect who you are. And I love that quote. It's so simply puts what I think more people need to hear, that like, you don't have to understand someone to just respect them and be kind to them. That's it. And I loved how succinctly Alexander Freed put that down.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. There's so many, Star Wars books and quotes out there that are really quality. I love almost everything that's in the Padme books. Queen Shadow is one of them. But I know there's a line about how if we are going only in one direction for one thing, sometimes we go in. I don't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, if we're going inside one direction, that could be the poor decision because it's only a one-track mindset. And having that one-track mindset, it might be a negative factor. And that's something that Padme learns throughout the books and obviously in the movies as well. But I just love everything that the character of Padme represents and what she learns in her life and her journey. I think is really, really good stuff. Who was the question by, RB3?
Sorry about that. That was from I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm gonna play the beginning real quick because I know I got a little cut off.
Snizer donated $5.
Hersoza, was that it?
Okay. Either way, thank you for the super chat. We really do appreciate that. Let's go to the POC Spotlight RB3, which is this week is about. Help me out with this, Alex. I know the Inquisitor says her name, but Depa Billaba?
Depa Billaba. That's how I always said it.
Billaba. Depa Billaba, a Star Wars character that you see in the background of the Phantom Menace, pretty much the entire film.
Oh, that was from Hudsonizer. Sorry, I just saw in the chat. Hudsonizer. Hey, what's up? And
there we go.
There we go. Hudsonizer. There we go. Boom.
There you go. But I want to give a little spotlight to her. And obviously, when it comes to people of color inside the Star Wars universe, I want them to have bigger roles, especially women of color. So I wanted to give a chance for us, Alex, even the little bit that we do know about Depa Billaba, what do we appreciate from her? So do you have any kind of connection to that character?
Yes, she's awesome in the Kanan comic. If you haven't read it, God.
Yes.
I love her relationship with Kanan. So she is Kanan Jarrus's master, and we get to see how they meet, how they bond, how she dies, which is heartbreaking, but also just like the perfect. She dies protecting her Padawan and making sure that he gets away. But I always loved. There's a moment where the Jedi Temple is attacked, and Kanan kind of is the one person that sees where the attacker is going and meets him on the roof, and as a young child tries to confront this bomber, and of course gets his butt kicked, and then Depa Billaba shows up and goes like full Sarah Connor, like step away from the Padawan, and she's so cool. So yeah, I have always thought that the comics did a much better job of presenting her, because she was barely in the films, as you said. But yeah, I love her in the comics.
I do too, and I have read that comic, and that's kind of my point of a reference for her, is that Kanan Jarrus comic and the idea of her being her master, and obviously the idea of I'm pretty sure she's Windu's apprentice, right? Am I wrong in that?
Yeah.
The idea of being Windu's apprentice, and what does that come with as far as the expectations come? Because obviously we know who Windu is as a master and as a swordsman. The Form 3 plays a big hand into this too, as far as what her specialty is and what becomes Kanan's specialty in lightsaber battles. And again, we see that in Rebels, right? Where it's the idea of Kanan is who he is because of her. And a lot of what he learned, whether it be in lightsaber form or whether it just be in life, came from his master. And I think that's really quality as well. I would love to see more of her, if I'm being honest, whether it is in comic form or animated form or live action or flashback or whatever it is. I think it'd be really cool to see more of her, because I think that's a cool character that wasn't really dived into a lot.
I remember getting excited for she, again, very brief appearance, but she and Kanan are in Clone Wars Season 7, just in during one of those opening narrations, which I was like, it's good to see them together and happy.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on, man. This was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you taking your time. This was cool, man. Thank you for coming on. Where can everyone find you, Alex?
We're on YouTube at Star Wars Explained, and we're on Twitter at Star Wars Explained. We're on Twitch at Alex Damon Live, where we do some non-Star Wars stuff, if you want to check that out. But Star Wars is really the only thing we know about, so
there you go.
That's where you can find us.
Obviously, guys, go check out Alex there and go support him on Star Wars Explained, his YouTube channel and his Twitter account as well. RB3, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3. Watch Meltdown every Wednesday, 5 o'clock PT on Network. And yeah, you can find me watching the Lakers whoop up on the Atlanta Hawks. I'm just kidding, Alex. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
They're probably not. They're probably not. Lakers are not in good shape right now. So.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to lose anyway. Either way, guys, for the Sabacc the Block crew, we're peacing out. Peace out.
Fair and square, baby. Fair and